Alright, after clocking in 400 hours of playtime in Total War Pharaoh, 200 in the Legacy game, and another 200 in the Dynasties update, I figured it's finally time for my official review. I've been a fan of the Total War franchise for over 20 years, so I think I've got a good grasp of where Pharaoh stands. Overall, I'd rate it a 7 out of 10 in its current state. So let's break down the review into 3 sections: what went wrong, what went right, and what I wish had been included. Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments, whether you're already playing Pharaoh or on the fence about picking it up. Now let's dive in. So Pharaoh launched in October 2023, smack in the middle of a rough time for Creative Assembly. We had the overpriced and underwhelming release of the Warhammer 3 Shadows of Change DLC just a month prior, and honestly that set the stage for a lot of negativity. The base game for Pharaoh was priced at around $60, with only a small portion of the world map available at launch. For many players it felt like deja vu, another overpriced game with limited content, and I think that really hurt Pharaoh's reception, even though it wasn't the same kind of product. I was one of the few creators covering the game early on, and even though I wasn't blindly praising it, the overall sentiment in the community was negative. Videos I posted rarely gained traction, and most of the feedback was negative, fueled by the frustration surrounding Creative Assembly at the time. That said, I still sunk over 200 hours into the Legacy game, and I enjoyed it for the most part. But it felt like CA Sophia, the developers behind it, were more held back by financial constraints. They clearly had the passion and talent, but it seemed like the budget wasn't there to deliver the game at its full potential right from launch. Though that's only what I can speculate. What went right? Fast forward to December, and we saw a crucial turning point. Just a couple of months after launch, CA announced that they were dropping the price, deleting the deluxe editions, refunding early buyers, and giving out the High Tides DLC, which allowed you to play the Sea People factions for free. That was a massive move in the right direction, helping rebuild trust and goodwill toward Pharaoh. They also patched Shadows of Change for Warhammer 3 to add the content that should have been there from the launch. Now here we are, close to a year later, and Pharaoh has come a long way. The Dynasties update brought a much needed expansion to the campaign map, added more factions, units, and really fleshed out the experience. So let's talk about what works in Pharaoh today. First off, the game is visually stunning. I become even more intrigued by the Bronze Age collapse, especially the lore surrounding the mysterious Sea Peoples. They're also a blast to play as. When it comes to the campaign mechanics, Pharaoh really shines. Trade and diplomacy are essential, reflecting how interconnected ancient cultures were, and managing your resource production and upkeep is equally important. The Pillars of Civilization mechanic is also a great touch, as it forces you to think beyond your borders. When the world around you starts collapsing, your faction will feel the impact. The settlement and outpost mechanics add depth to how you manage your empire. Plus, the buffs before battles you get by interacting with these outposts reminds me of my old MMO days. Getting powered up before a big fight feels rewarding. I also love the religion mechanic. It adds customization to how you want to play your faction, especially with the ability to expand and unlock new gods to worship based upon where you're conquering. Devoting generals for passive buffs and maintaining worship levels adds a sense of progression. Court intrigue, family trees, and the dynasty mechanics are also solid. Fighting to become ruler of the kingdom you're in, add layers of gameplay beyond just combat, and the ancient legacy system boosts replayability. On the battle mechanics side, I'm really happy to see the return to General Bodyguard unit, instead of the single, overpowered generals from Warhammer and Three Kingdoms. The lethality system introduced with Dynasties makes battles feel faster and more intense. You've got that edge of your seat excitement in almost every engagement. The battle maps are extremely immersive too. Using terrain has never been more important, and the new line of sight mechanic, visibility, really changes how you approach combat. The weather system during battles is also fantastic, meaning that same weather can change the campaign map, turning dirt into mud and therefore making heavier units less effective. You can really use these weather changes and terrain to overcome a more powerful enemy if used right. Throw in the Blood and Sands DLC and the immersion gets cranked up even further. The first time I saw a Bloody River on the battlefield, chef's kiss. Finally, Pharaoh's modding potential is huge, which opens the door for community-created content. New factions, unit reskins, map expansions, and more. I've already covered a few mods on my channel, and I expect a lot more great content to come from the community. Now let's talk about what I would have loved to see, especially now that Pharaoh is likely in its final form. First off, defeat traits for faction leaders would have been fantastic, especially now that they can permanently die. It would have added a lot of tension. Rushing to take out key leaders before they meet their end could have made the campaigns even more dynamic. I really wish they would have added agents to the map as well. But I guess you can get some of this from paying gold to scout enemy territories, or get that sense of espionage from really working the court system. But it would have been fun to embed agents into your armies and play them. While the Dynasties update brought a lot to the table, it also nerfed the Sea People's invasions. They no longer feel like the impending doom. Instead of rushing up in top tier stacks and burning everything to the ground that you had to survive, they become a lot more docile and focused on settling in Dynasties. I miss the sheer terror of their legacy playstyle. I'd say Pharaoh is probably the most difficult early to mid game. If you find yourself kind of surviving and steamrolling towards the end, it's likely because you did everything right leading up to that point. Still, the endgame can be a little bit less immersive. However, you can always use the campaign customization options when you start to increase that difficulty even more, or try out some mods to spice things up a bit. Lastly, I'm a huge fan of multiplayer co-op campaigns, and after getting used to simultaneous turns in Warhammer 3, it's kinda tough to go back to the old system, but it's not a deal breaker. But it is something I really wish would have been updated for Pharaoh, but I understand that's likely limited to the engine it's on. Now for my final thoughts. As mentioned, I would rate Pharaoh as a 7 out of 10 in its current form. And I just want to give one quick note for those coming from Warhammer 3 or other historic titles. Pharaoh plays very differently. If you're expecting the same experience, you might be disappointed. There's a steep learning curve, but I guarantee the game gets better the more you play. And with that, thanks so much for watching, and if you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Total War content, and let me know what you feel about my review in the comments below. And as always, catch you on the battlefield. Thanks for watching.